voice every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
In today's complex mortgage world, finding the right direction can be challenging. That's where Lighthouse Advisors comes in. With over 25 years of experience, we provide fractional leadership and executive oversight, guiding companies through transitions, growth, and innovation. From IMBs to brokers to credit unions to tech firms, our team of seasoned professionals is here to shine a light on solutions, ensuring your business thrives in every environment. At Lighthouse Advisors, we don't just guide, we empower. Together, let's create a ripple of success across the industry. Email us today at laura@lighthouseadvisors.com. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, you are in for a treat because we are joined by the amazing Dr. Christie McMullen. She is the CEO of the Intentionality Group and the host of Productive Joy Podcast. Christie, thank you so much for taking time today to share a little bit of your brilliance and wisdom with us. And we'd like to kick it off with our very first question. In life, we learn so many lessons and so many pieces of advice or nuggets. And some of these things sit with us and they kind of become part of the decisions that we make in our lives. So Christie, please share with us, what is something that you learned that you would like to share with our audience?
All right, Laura. So I would say that if we don't make work fun, people quit. Because people quit things that aren't fun. So I have been an educator my entire existence. So really all 48 of my years, but for 26 years, I've been an educator. And about 5 years ago, I kind of shifted from working with educators to working with businesses all over the place, that are medical and financial and all everything in between. And what I discovered is that regardless of industry, regardless of situation, regardless of any of that, if we don't make it fun, people quit. You don't go on a second date if you hated the first date. And you certainly don't go back to a movie if you hated it the first time. But we ask people to come to work day after day after day, and nothing about it is fun. And the problem with that is that then we wonder why they're not doing their best and why they're quitting or quiet quitting on us. Well, that's on us. So I do have a very specific definition of fun, though, because what I think is fun and what you think is fun, Laura, probably won't be exactly the same. So, but my definition of fun, I do think fits introverts, extroverts, ambiverts, and everyone in between. Fun means people feel valued and appreciated. Fun means people have a voice and they're allowed to use it. And fun means that people are able to leverage their talents for the greater good. So when I say make work fun, what I mean is see your people, know your people, and let your people contribute to what it is that you're asking them to do. So how does that all fit, right? Like I think ultimately, if we're not creating some productive joy and letting fun and work be together, our brains don't fire neurons at all. And so we might as well just forget getting anybody to remember anything we've ever said. And I don't think we wake up in the morning and go, I really want to be forgettable today. Right? But we often are because we're not making it fun.
Wow. That was a lot, and I loved it. I loved every single second of it. It was hard for me to stay quiet as you were saying that because I was like, yes, inside. So I'm going to share a little story that last week I was at Disneyland with my family.
Love it. I was there last week.
Now, for the 70th?
Well, yeah. So I was in Anaheim for the week of the 70th. I was working an event at the convention center that's right there,
right there,
at Disneyland.
Get out.
Funny.
Wow. So small world.
It is a small world.
So because of the time difference, of course, West Coast to East Coast, I took a call that was at 6 o'clock in the morning because it was 9 o'clock on the East, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this call at 6 o'clock in the morning. Disneyland isn't open yet. I can take this call. So I sat in the hotel room with my family and I took the call. And when I finished the call, I turned to my husband and my grown children and I said, do you know how lucky I am? And my husband and my children are like, what are we thinking here, Mom? Like, what do you mean? And I said, I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I love my clients. I love what I get to do. I said, and the fact that I can spend time with my family and be able to help my clients, man, I am blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, Christy, of everything you said, the next thing I said to my kids was, it's really sad how few people feel that.
Yeah.
So I really want to keep exploring this, Christy, because
Yeah.
we know, I'm sure you could probably quote the statistic of how few people are truly engaged and truly may exclaim, I love what I do and I enjoy going to work, right? So tell us about that, right? Like, tell us, continue to share. How do we get better as leaders?
Oh my gosh, I love that you asked. So, the dollar signs that are tied to people being miserable at work are astronomical because one, we don't create as good of a product if our people aren't happy. The happiness advantage was a study that was done out of Harvard, and it was about the difference in productivity from somebody that's happy versus not. And we have a lot more influence over this than we realize. So I like to say that our sphere of control, for those of you that are watching, is this teeny tiny little hole right here, like teeny tiny. But if you spread your arms out as wide as you can, that's our sphere of influence. We can influence how people feel in our presence at work, or just around us in general. But we forget that sometimes and we try to control it, right? Well, I can't control that they don't want to be here. Yeah, but you can influence it, right? You can make it the kind of place people want to show up. So I don't think there's a soul on the planet who wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be terrible at my job today. But we don't equip people to be good. And because we don't equip people to be good and then we punish them for not being good, people start to hate what they do. So going back to you saying, I love my job. I love what I do. I do too. And I feel very blessed to be able to say that. And you're right, not everybody can. And a lot of that is due to lack of understanding from the leaders in this space that they need to create the kind of space people want to come to. They still have to build the widget and they still have to, sign on the dotted line or do the accounting or whatever it is. But there can be joy in it. And so that's where productive joy came in, right? So I knew I wanted to start a project.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to start a project. I wanted to start a podcast. I knew I wanted to start a podcast, but I didn't want it to just be about work. So ChatGPT and I sat down together and we typed out some things. And when I said, how else can I say make work fun? It came up with productive joy. And I'm like, oh, that's it. Because you can have productive joy at home. You can have productive joy at work. You can have productive joy everywhere. And I've done about 180 episodes already. And in those episodes, I always ask, what's your definition of productive joy? And I haven't gotten exactly the same answer twice. I think it's important that we recognize that it's personal, right? So when I say fun at work, I'm not talking about happy hours, although that helps, right? I'm not talking about giving the, employee of the month a parking spot, because if you have 100 employees, there are only 12 months in the year. You have left out the bulk of your people. I'm talking about making people feel seen and letting people know that finding out what's fun for somebody is step one, and then allowing that to be the case at work. So maybe it's letting them listen to music. Maybe it's, letting them pick up their kids from school at 3:00 and flex their time. Maybe it's just that you listen to their ideas and you actually use some of them. But we don't do that because, and often, at least in my experience, the leaders that I work with that struggle with this because of insecurities and not because of a lack of desire. It's not that they don't want to do differently. They don't know how, and that makes them feel scared, insecure, inadequate, and nobody likes to feel that. So they buck up and they're like, nope, sorry, we're going to do it my way. And we help leaders get past that to the point where they want to help, right? Where they recognize, okay, so the bottom line is being affected too much for me to not fix this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense. And, I always like to flow into leadership, right? So you just perfectly flowed us right into the leadership side, right? And I always say, we all know leadership is not a title. Has nothing to do with, oh, the leader has this particular title, right? But I'd like to hear from you, especially when you get that example about insecurity. And I certainly have seen that in my experience too, that a lot of times people just stay at their comfort, right? What they're comfortable doing, because listen, I can say for myself, when I say, I've got this idea, we're going to roll this out, there is fear of failure, of course. You have no idea if that's going to be successful or if it isn't going to be successful. And it's scary putting yourself out there, right? As a leader to say, we're making this change, we've made this decision. And especially right now, okay, well, maybe it's not even just right now, in life, people have so much risk aversion, right? They're afraid of, well, what happens if I make a mistake and I get penalized for this or criticized for this? Or what happens if, what are the ramifications? So people are afraid to make that change. So, Christie, what do you recommend, right? Give me what's one of the most important leadership traits or what you look for as the best candidate of being able to take this leader and show them that, hey, all we need to do is this in order to make work fun.
Oh my gosh, I could go in like 16 directions, Laura, but I won't. Yeah. So let me try to stay focused. I am trained in psychological safety. Okay. And psychological safety is the art of creating a space where people can make mistakes, can ask questions, and are not going to be penalized for not knowing the answers. So to use the example that you gave of the leader that's afraid to try new things, two things are true. One, it takes 18 times of doing something in front of somebody else to master it. So if you try it once and it bombs, you got to try it 17 more times before you tell me it didn't work. So what happens sometimes is you say, okay, what if you ran your meetings like this? Okay, great. You try it on a Thursday and you're like, oh my gosh, that was a train wreck. I will never do that again. So it's helping the leader understand that failure is the first attempt in learning, right? FAIL, first attempt in learning. We don't do that by nature. We're not taught that in school. We're taught in school, if you miss a question, you fail, you're bad, you're wrong, that's terrible. It's actually not true. So it's shifting a mindset of growth versus fixed, right? Getting people to the point where they're willing to try to make mistakes. And then also figuring out where the missing opportunities are within that space. So we actually throw failure parties where everybody gets to mention the thing that they've done that they really didn't do very well. Oops. And what did you learn from it? Because again, it's that learning that matters, not the fact that you failed. And then the other thing that I tack on to that when working with leaders is, well, working with humans. This is true of all humans. So I told you I've been an educator for 26 years. And in those 26 years, I have worked with leaders at all levels and humans at all levels. We're all leaders. So I guess I've worked with humans at all levels. And I realized that there is a formula for creating a space where people are able to grow. And that is that you make those interactions safe, logical, fun, and memorable. So I wrote a book called Learning Can Stick, and that's the crux of the book, is that if you make learning interactions safe, logical, fun, and memorable, people will be able to remember it. They will be sticky, right? Learning can stick. Play on words. I give scratch and sniff stickers to adults. So I legit, like I usually can put my hands on a set somewhere. But the idea is safe, logical, fun, and memorable means that people can learn from you. And you're like, well, Christie, I'm not an educator. Yeah, you are. Every leader, every human on this planet is teaching people things all day long. So you mentioned you had adult children, right? So when you're talking to your adult children, you are teaching them things. Yeah. Even though they don't want you to anymore, because my kids are 24, they clearly know everything. But yeah, I'm teaching them things. And when I'm having conversations with friends about perimenopause, as a good example, we're teaching each other things. But most people have never been trained in how to teach.
Right.
I know how the adult brain works. I know how the kids' brains work too, but pedagogy and andragogy have very specific things involved with them. That's the teaching of children and the teaching of adults. And yet, we are asking people to do things they're not equipped to do. So that's where safe, logical, fun, and memorable comes in and allows us to speak in a way that people understand. So back to your original question about, what do you say to leaders to get them to the point where they can be brave in that space and not so insecure? You start by safe, psychological safety, not physical safety. But then you also have to be logical and fun and memorable. So we've already talked about fun. Obviously, that's my favorite, right? If we don't make work fun, people quit. But the logical part is important too. That's that you have a plan. You stick to the plan, but you're not the only person who knows the plan. Sometimes
That's
we say,
a big
I need
one.
to meet with you. Right. I need to see you in my office in an hour. What do you do for that hour?
Yeah.
You're total panic, right?
Yeah, that's not good. No bueno on that
terrible.
one.
That's terrible leadership.
That's not good leadership.
But all we had to do is say, I need you in my office in an hour. It's because the Smiths are coming in at 3.
This
You
is
have
what
the
I
Smith
need you to
file.
bring. I expect you to have this. Right. Yes. Come
Set people
prepared
up for
with
success.
this.
So that logical part is that you are sharing the plan with other people. And then the memorable is that you have to sprinkle, splash, flood, drip, drip, drip information.
Got it.
Okay, so I live in Florida. It really rains here like it means it, right? So the sprinkle splash is like a preview to a movie. It's those big fat drops that hit your windshield before the sky opens up. Well, that's the email before the meeting that says we're going to meet, we're going to talk about these 3 things, right? Great. That gives people the ability to be prepared. The flood is the event, the meeting, the podcast, the experience. Problem with a flood is most of that water, most of that information is lost in runoff. You have to drip, drip, drip afterwards. So the drip, drip, drip is the follow-up email. It's the phone call 2 weeks later. It's the flyer that they get in the mail that says, here's what we talked about. But when you have a leader who is insecure, who doesn't know how to get their point across, maybe they just need it to be a little stickier. And that's where that safe, logical, fun, and memorable teaching comes in.
I love it. I love all of it. It excites me because if we as humans forget about what industry, it really makes no difference what industry we're in. If we as humans follow that logic in every single thing, it doesn't matter if you're someone that's been doing something 30 years or if you just arrived out of college yesterday and you're starting your first job. We all need the same thing.
Yeah.
We all need it. And I did, this actually goes back to Dion and I's conversation on her recording where we spoke about everybody learns differently also.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, asking questions such as, so how is the best way do you take in information for you to be able to absorb it and retain it?
Yep.
Some people videos, some people need to see it in writing, some people need a combination of hearing it, right? And what that little simple time of asking that question could be the difference of whether someone will be with you for 2 weeks or 20 years.
Yeah, 100%.
So all of this so valuable. And we could go on for days on this one, but of course we're not going to do that because of course at the end of this, Christie's going to tell you all the places you can learn more of all Christie's work. Okay, so we like to end this with my favorite question, although I love this learning stuff in the brain. It just absolutely excites me. But I believe that we're always planting seeds. We're planting seeds for future things that we'll do, and maybe some things that maybe we haven't really started working on yet, but we have this thought in our mind. And I also believe that when we say things out loud, you plant that to grow. So at this time, we'd love to ask you, if you had no limitations, nothing ever holding you back, what would be your moonshot of something that you would like to accomplish in your life?
So, Brene Brown is an inspiration to me for a lot of different reasons. Mostly because she brought things that we as educators know to be true to light in a way that people wanted to hear. I want to do the same. I want productive joy to become the kind of space that people talk about, and people hear and go, oh my gosh, yes, I need that. And the way that I would like that to manifest is by helping organizations create that productive joy, as a household name, kind of like the DISC assessment, the Berkman, all of those things. I use my own personality test. It's called well, it's not called anything. I guess I should name it something. But are you a slinky, paperclip, teddy bear, or magnifying glass? And it goes along with all of those personality tests. But I'd like for those things, those phrases that I have been saying all these years, to become the kind of thing that when people say Christie McMullen, they know, okay, that's the Brene Brown of this space. And when they hear intentionality groups, that they say, oh my gosh, I need more intentionality in my life. That's my big, hairy, audacious goal.
I love it. I love it. And it's already brewing and growing in that direction.
It is. And I'm just ready for it to take off.
Yes. All right. Please share with our audience how they can contact you, find out more, listen to your podcast, all of the above. Please share.
Okay. So, Productive Joy. If you can just remember Productive Joy and you type that in, you're going to find me. But also Dr. Christie McMullen, Christiemullen. And that is, if you went to Instagram, if you went to LinkedIn, if you went anywhere and you typed that in, you're going to find me, Facebook. And the purpose in trying to keep it simple is that I do want people to find me. You can also Google the Intentionality Group and you will find us there as well. So keep it simple. Use my name, Productive Joy or Intentionality Group.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your pieces of wisdom with us. It really is something that we could go on for a very, very long time. Thank you for the work you're doing. I can already tell that the positive impact that you're having on others is only continuing to make the world a better place. So keep shining brightly and continue the work that you're doing. We all need it.
Thank you, Laura. And thank you for what you're doing. This is so much fun.
Pleasure. Take care.